Part 1. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Ching Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 Abandonment of the Agreement. Xiaoningxun opened her eyes and saw several people beside the bed. Looking at the room in front of me, it looked like a hospital ward. She felt her body and then looked at her hands. They were intact. What happened? She remembered that the car she was driving was involved in an accident and the car spontaneously ignited. The car deformed due to the huge momentum. Her feet were stuck tightly and she could not escape. She was burned alive. The mother could obviously escape from the skylight, but when she saw that she couldn't escape, she gave up the chance of escape and tried hard to save her. But unfortunately, both of them were eventually destroyed by fire. In her current body, she only feels a slight pain in her head and her body is weak. It is by no means a burned body. Suddenly, there was a quarrel beside the bed. You don't want your daughter when she is seriously ill. Is there any other father in the world like you? After we divorced, I raised her by myself for 6 years. What's wrong with letting you raise her now? You make it sound like I don't want to raise you. You agreed to give me your daughter at first, but after the divorce, you immediately took your daughter to another place. Later, when your daughter got older, you couldn't control her anymore, so you had no choice but to let your daughter often live with you. I'll meet. Yuan Deshan choked. He really didn't want a daughter when he got divorced. But thinking that he could not have children at that time, he might end up alone without this daughter. Moreover, his parents told him that losing his daughter would make Xiaoshulan miserable for the rest of his life, so he quietly snatched her daughter and moved away. Xiaoshulan glanced at the woman next to her and mocked, "You treat your daughter like this just because of the vixen around you." Ren Jingjing was called a vixen. She was not angry at all. Instead, she smiled and said, "Xiaoshulan, I'm pregnant now. You also know what your ex-husband is capable of. I won't have any extra money or time to take care of your daughter in the future." Yuan Deshan hugged Ren Jingjing and said, "I never remarried in order to take care of my daughter. After the divorce, you returned to your parents' house and helped raise your eldest sister's 2 sons. Now that you have one more daughter, how can you how about it?" Ren Jingjing said, "That's right, your daughter is likely to be in a vegetative state anyway, so it won't make you too tired." Xiaoshulan clenched her fists, although she was very dissatisfied with her ex-husband for abandoning their daughter. But if she could regain custody, she would be happy. My daughter followed Yuan Deshan. She was skinny, severely malnourished, and must have suffered a lot. She looked anxious. But before, my daughter was sensible and knew that her conditions were not good, so she did not want to burden her and was unwilling to return to her. Xiaoningxun, who was lying down, secretly despised him. Yuan Deshan said it nicely. He wanted to take care of her, but it was because he had a high vision and what he liked was looked down upon by others. Others took a fancy to him, but he also disliked the fact that they were not beautiful enough or rich enough, so he remained single. Yuan Deshan wants to give up on her this time, firstly because Ren Jingjing is pregnant, and secondly because Ren Jingjing and her ex-husband also have a daughter, and Ren Jingjing wants Yuan Deshan to support her daughter. Xiaoshulan glanced at the 2 people who were leaning together, feeling extremely disgusted in her heart. She frowned and said, "I can take care of my daughter, but you must sign an agreement with me. If your daughter recovers in the future, you cannot take back the custody rights." "Yes, but I won't pay alimony, and you didn't pay me much before. You don't want it yourself so that your daughter will hate me. Forget it, I don't want to talk about this now. What about my daughter's medical expenses? My daughter was in a car accident, but the perpetrator ran away and there was no surveillance. So far, the perpetrator has not been found. Half for each person." "Okay, but I have one condition." "You say?" "As long as he can get rid of this burden, Yuan Deshan can consider any number of conditions. It must be clearly stated in the agreement that if the child's surname is changed to Jiao in the future, you must also cooperate with me in transferring the child's household registration to my name. Yuan Deshan was a little hesitant. Ren Jingjing glared at her husband. They are all daughters anyway, does it matter what their last name is? The one in my belly must be a son. When the time comes, my surname will be Yuan, and I can continue the family lineage. Yuan Deshan also thought it made sense. Okay. The three of them quickly went to sign the agreement. The ward became quiet again. No one noticed that Jiao Ningxun had woken up. Jiao Ningxun also figured out what was going on at this time. She was reborn, back to the year when she was 16, which was the year 2016 in China. On the way home from school, I was hit by a car and became a vegetative state ever since. Yuan Deshan ignored her after knowing that she had become a vegetative state. It was Chiao Shulan who got the news, asked for leave from her employer, and stayed by her bed day and night to take care of her. This care lasts for 3 years. Because Yuan Deshan ignored her, after she woke up, she changed her surname to that of her mother, Chiao Shulan. Unexpectedly, she was reborn. In her previous life, her mother had to take care of her and her aunt's 2 sons. She worked hard to make money every day, was overworked, and suffered from many diseases. 1 month before her death, her mother was terminally ill and had only 1 month left to live. In this life, she will never let what happened in the previous life happen. She heard from her mother in her previous life that not long after the doctor said she might become a vegetative state, her father came over with his new love and abandoned her. She had a car accident on May 1st, so it should be May 15th now. But why did she wake up after only being in a coma for more than 10 days this time? Ningxun, you're awake. Chiao Ningxun turned around and saw 3 people walking towards her. The expressions on the 3 people's faces were different, some were happy, some were surprised, and some were regretful. Chiao Shulan anxiously stepped forward to look at her daughter, and excitedly pressed the bell next to the bed. Ningxun, you finally woke up, you were so worried about your mother. In order to show that he was also a good father, Yuan Deshan also pretended to be worried and said, Ningxun, it will be fine if you wake up. Dad has been very worried during this period, just in case something happens to you. Chiao Ningxun just glanced at Yuan Deshan and then looked away. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly felt her head hurt even more. She could only barely smile and said with relief, Mom, I'm fine. Don't worry. Chiao Shulan hugged her daughter and cried, it's great, it's so great. Yuan Deshan touched his nose awkwardly. It's really an ignorant white-eyed wolf. After a while, the doctor also arrived. Chiao Shulan quickly gave up her seat and said excitedly, Dr. Yan, look, she suddenly woke up. Will she be fine in the future? Dr. Yan carefully examined Chiao Ningxun and said in surprise, what a miracle. According to my experience, an injury of this degree will definitely lead to a vegetative state. It can take as little as 3 years or as long as he can't wake up for the rest of his life. I didn't expect that people can actually wake up so soon. Your experience is correct, she slept for 3 years in her previous life. Chiao Ningxun took a look at Dr. Yan, who looked like a celebrity, and said with a smile, I woke up so quickly because of your good medical skills. You underestimated your own medical skills. Dr. Yan was happy and said with a smile, it seems that nothing is wrong. He is just joking. I will observe him for a while. If there are no other problems, I can leave the hospital and go home to recuperate. Chiao Shulan said happily, thank you doctor. After the doctor left, Ren Jingjing said with a sinister look on her face, it's really the right time to wake up. As soon as the agreement was signed, I woke up. After speaking, she gave her husband a look. Yuan Deshan was stunned for a moment, and soon understood. He glanced at the agreement Chiao Shulan put aside, and reached out to grab it. The doctors said that my daughter is fine. She only suffered a head injury and other parts of her body are fine. She will be discharged from the hospital soon. My daughter is already 16 years old and can do a lot of work. She is given food every day and it doesn't matter if she doesn't starve to death. It doesn't cost much. But if you hire a professional nanny, it can cost several thousand per month. Continue to stay with him, and when you turn 18 in 2 years, you will be a free nanny who can make money. It was just Jiao Ningxun who noticed his actions and quickly grabbed the agreement into his arms. Seeing this, Jiao Shulan quickly protected her daughter behind her and frowned, "What are you doing? Do you regret it now?" Yuan Deshan took back his hand and said humbly, "Now that my daughter is awake, she has lived with me since she was a child and is familiar with me. It would be better for her to continue to follow me in the future. Should we void this agreement? It's hard for you to support her anyway." Jiao Ningxun felt like a mirror in her heart and gave Yuan Deshan a roll of her eyes. "Mom, I had a classmate before. After her parents divorced, she followed her father. After her father remarried, she gave birth to a little brother not long after. The stepmother doesn't let her study anymore, and she has to serve her and her little brother at home every day. Do you think, if I go back with him, will the stepmother let me do the same?" Yuan Deshan and Ren Jingjing's expression suddenly changed. This child actually knows this. "Okay," Qiao Shulan said with her hands on her hips, "Yuan Deshan, you bastard, it turns out that you have such an idea. Let me tell you, there is no way to get your daughter back. The agreement has been signed, and there is no use regretting it." Yuan Deshan quickly explained, "I didn't mean that. I just think it's better for my daughter to follow me." Jiao Ningxun suddenly grabbed Qiao Shulan's hand and said with an aggrieved look, "Mom, I was afraid that you would be worried, so I didn't tell you. Dad took away all the pocket money you gave me before." Talking about the past, she shed tears involuntarily. "He didn't let me eat every day and made me sleep on the kitchen floor. I was too cold to sleep every night. After he got a new girlfriend, he even beat me frequently. In order to prevent others from seeing the traces, he pricked me with needles, beat me with a stick wrapped in a towel, and specially hit my finger joints. My body hurts every day. I will never go back with him again." The days at Yuan's house were really her most painful days. Qiao Shulan's eyes were about to burst when she heard this. Her only daughter was actually abused like that. Had I known she should not have listened to her daughter, she should have taken her back to her and watched by myself. Snapped. She rushed up and gave Yuan Deshan a slap in the face without thinking much. Yuan Deshan was furious. He, a grown man, was actually beaten by a woman. End of this chapter. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. The space was tricked by Jiao Ningxun. "Qiao Shulan, why are you crazy?" Qiao Shulan didn't say anything. After the beating, she still wasn't relieved and wanted to beat him. Seeing Yuan Deshan raising his hand to fight back, Jiao Ningxun was worried that her mother would suffer a loss, so she quickly said, "Mom, I'm a little uncomfortable." Sure enough, Qiao Shulan immediately stopped moving and came to her daughter nervously. Just when Yuan Deshan was about to call back, a nurse suddenly walked in and said with a cold face, "The patient needs to rest. Just leave a guardian here. The others should leave quickly, or I will call security." The agreement was signed just next to the nurse's station. They all knew what Yuan Deshan did. When something happened to their daughter, they gave up custody rights. Now that my daughter wakes up, she regrets it? Bah! Scumbag! Ren Jingjing took Yuan Deshan's hand and whispered, "Brother Shan, forget it, let's talk about it later, I'm afraid of fetal irritation." Yuan Deshan had no choice but to snort and left unwillingly. Qiao Shulan asked with concern, "Ningxun, where else are you feeling uncomfortable?" No, I must be hungry. Xiao Shulan smiled and touched her daughter's head. Mom is going to buy you food. Don't worry. If you follow Mom in the future, you will never suffer again. Well, thank you, Mom. But as soon as Yuan Deshan walked out of the hospital door, he suddenly realized and gritted his teeth and said, "We were tricked by Xiaoning Sun. She just robbed her without reading the agreement. She must know what it is. She must have woken up long ago and deliberately waited for us to sign her just woke up. No, I have to go back to find her." Ren Jingjing advised, "Okay, the signatures are all signed. It's useless for you to regret it. I'm still pregnant, so I can't be too tired. The days are long. We will find ways to teach her a lesson in the future." "That's okay, I'll just listen to you." After Xiao Shulan left, Xiao Ningxun fell into deep thought. After her death in her previous life, her soul rose into the sky. She saw with her own eyes that many people were saving her. At the scene of the car accident, she saw a man making a phone call and said, "The mission has been completed. Don't worry, no one can find out that Xiao Ningxun's car was tampered with. Okay, prepare 1 million in cash, and I'll go there take it somewhere." Then she followed the man and got the money. She knew the person who called. She also knows the mastermind. The mastermind probably never imagined that she would actually be reborn. If you dare to kill them, she will take revenge. It's just that that family is rich and powerful. They are prestigious even in the whole country, not to mention in Nanjing. Her current ability is not enough to compete with them. She had only met that man a few times, so why did he want to kill her? That's all, it's useless to think about it so much now. Only by making more money can you reach those people. She glanced at the thermos cup next to her. In just a moment, the thermos cup disappeared on the table. Xiao Ningxun was overjoyed and closed her eyes to feel it. The thermos cup was indeed in her space. It seems that her space has followed her. After getting the result, she quickly transferred the thermos cup out. She felt the contents of the space again, including the books and bookshelves. Those books are estimated to be in the tens of thousands. In her previous life, something happened an hour after she got the space, so she didn't study it carefully. She had taken out the book before, but she couldn't open it. I wonder if it is possible now. While Xiao Shulan hadn't come back yet, she took out the first book in the first row and opened it smoothly this time. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 3. Chapter 3, The Immortal Technique for Discharge from Hospital. The strange thing is that she has never seen the words above, but at a glance, she actually understands their meaning. The book in her hand is actually a book about cultivating immortals. Xiao Ningxun was extremely excited. If she could become an immortal, her family would not have to worry about it in the future. Hearing the sound of footsteps, she quickly put the book back into space. After eating the meal served by Xiao Shulan, Xiao Ningxun worriedly said, "Mom, if I go back with you like this, will my grandparents have any objections?" Auntie Xiao Shuking got divorced and returned to her parents' home, leaving behind her 2 sons and running away. Now her grandparents and mother have to raise her 2 sons. If she goes back again, they will have to raise 3 children, which will definitely be a lot of pressure. Xiao Shulan's parents also have 4 sons. After the separation, they were originally required to provide monthly living expenses. But since Xiao Shuking's son came back, the eldest, second and third eldest brother felt that the money they gave was for someone else to raise their son, so they stopped giving it. Only the 4th child has been giving living expenses honestly. Xiao Shulan smiled and said, "Don't worry, Your grandparents asked me to find you before. They want me to get the custody rights back. They will definitely be happy if you go back. Suddenly a feeling of sleepiness came over, and Xiao Ningxun yawned. Seeing that she was sleepy, Xiao Shulan asked her to lie down and covered her with a quilt. You have a good rest. Mom also has something to do. If you feel uncomfortable, ring the bell. Do you understand? Okay. After Xiao Shulan left, Xiao Ningxun quickly closed his eyes, his consciousness entered the space, and he began to study the books again. Strangely, many books can be opened. She also found a book that looked like an instruction manual. The book says that these books can only be used by the owner of the space. After gaining spiritual power, her body can also move in and out of space freely. Time in space is stationary, and anything can be put into it. For books about cultivating immortals, if the body has not cultivated spiritual power, it can only exert 10% of the original ability of the immortal method. For her, 10% is enough. Soon, she memorized the first sentence. There was only one sentence on one page, but when she wanted to memorize the second sentence, she could not open the second page. What happened? You can open other books at will, why not books related to cultivating immortality? That's all, let's test the first sentence first before talking about it. In case it's fake, it's useless to memorize it too much. Xiao Shulan came back after taking care of things and found that her daughter had been sleeping, so she didn't disturb her and slept on the bed next to her. Xiao Ningxun suddenly opened his eyes, and the sky was already dark. Seeing that Xiao Shulan was already asleep, she quietly got up and walked outside. Coming to a large green belt, she looked around, found a place without surveillance, and suddenly recited a mantra. As soon as I finished reading, something magical happened. The flower bones that had not yet bloomed actually all blossomed. And compared with the flowers next to it, it is several times larger. Xiao Ningxun was startled and quickly looked around with a guilty conscience. In order not to arouse suspicion, she quickly got up and left. The name of the first mantra is called Stimulating Growth, and it can actually promote the growth of plants. Not only can it promote the growth of plants, but it can also promote the growth of plants. Great, with this ability, she will be able to farm and never starve to death. Where she didn't know, a man who was sleeping suddenly opened his eyes. While the man was getting dressed, he made a phone call. She really showed up. She has been gone for so many years, how can she still be there? Do you think I'm joking with you when I call you now? Then can you sense where exactly the person is? It's near my home, I'll go find her now. Tell me the address and I'll meet you. Okay. The man told the general location and went out. After Xiao Ningxun left the flower bed, she quickly returned to the ward. As soon as she lay down, she lost consciousness. What she didn't know was that not long after she left, two people appeared in the flower bed where she had just been. After discovering that no one was there, the two began to look around again. Xiao Ningxun woke up again and saw that the sky was still dark, and murmured, "It's not dawn yet, I'd better continue to sleep." Seeing that her daughter was about to close her eyes again, Xiao Shulan shouted loudly, "Ningxun!" Xiao Ningxun shivered with fright, and instantly became energetic. "Mom, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Seeing her daughter looking at her innocently, Xiao Shulan quickly pressed the bell and cried, "You scared me to death. Do you know that you slept for 3 more days? No matter how I called you during these 3 days, I always called you, I didn't wake up, and the doctor came over to check and there was nothing wrong. I thought she had a comeback before, or had she really become a vegetative state? Did I really sleep for 3 days? Yes." Xiao Ningxun took her mother's cell phone next to her and looked at the time. It was already the night of the 18th. "How is this going?" "Soon, Dr. Yan came over again. After checking it, he said, "Everything is normal." Xiao Shulan worriedly asked, "Then why did she sleep for 3 more days? It should be the sequelae of a car accident. This has happened before. It's better to stay in the hospital for a few more days and observe more." "Okay, excuse me, doctor." After Dr. Yan left, Xiao Shulan asked with concern, "Ningxun, how do you feel now?" Xiao Ningxun suddenly felt guilty. It seemed that she had not been discovered when she went out quietly that day. "It's okay, Mom. I'm sorry for making you worry again. It's good that you're fine." "Mom, don't worry, I feel pretty good now and this won't happen again in the future." "Good." May 30th. After recuperating for a while, Xiao Ningxun's body has almost recovered and it's time to be discharged from the hospital. During this period, Xiao Shulan also went to Yuan Deshan to transfer her household registration to her own name. Of course, Yuan Deshan was originally unwilling to cooperate, but Xiao Shulan took the risk and said that if he did not cooperate, he would come to make trouble with him every day. I don't know if God is helping Xiao Shulan. Ren Jingjing was very unwell in those days. Yuan Deshan was worried about the impact on the child in Ren Jingjing's belly, so he had no choice but to agree to cooperate. Xiao Ningxun also studied the instructions carefully and found the answer to her drowsiness. To put it simply, her body has not recovered yet and she has no spiritual power in her body, so she slept for 3 days. In order to be able to use it casually in the future, having a healthy body is the key. In addition, you must also find a way to cultivate spiritual power. Otherwise, even if you have a healthy body, your body will feel sleepy every time you use the formula. I don't know why, but her memory is very good now. There are ancient medical books on the bookshelf. Those things written in medical books, she who used to have a mediocre memory can now remember them just by reading them over and over again. She can say that she never forgets them. It's just that her body has not fully recovered yet, and she will get dizzy if she uses her brain too much, so she has not finished reciting it yet. End of this chapter. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Borrowing Money to He Yuan Hui. If you can study medicine, at least you won't have to spend money if your family members get sick in the future. Just how can we have spiritual power? With something on his mind, Xiao Ningxun and Xiao Shulan took their luggage to the rest area on the first floor and sat down. It's just that Xiao Shulan called Yuan Deshan and asked him to send money, but the call couldn't get through. It was already afternoon. Xiao Ningxun received her last fluid infusion in the morning. Seeing Xiao Shulan's distressed look, Xiao Ningxun said helplessly, "Mom, don't fight, he won't take it. His child is about to be born, and there are many places to spend money. My medical expenses are expensive, and he no money will be given." Yuan Deshan said before that he would support her, but he didn't give her much money. The money she uses is basically the money she runs errands for others, or the money Xiao Shulan asks people to bring to her from time to time. And once Yuan Deshan finds out that she has money, he will rob her of it. Yuan Deshan didn't give her much food. Sometimes she only got 1 cold steamed bun a day, so starvation was common. Sometimes the neighbors would ask her to eat when they saw she was hungry. The most common thing she does is to run down the street and take the initiative to clean tables and clear dishes in restaurants. Those people are also kind-hearted people and will give her more or less food. She has seen through the kind of people like Yuan Deshan in her previous life, and it is common for them to break their promises, even to their own relatives. Xiao Shulan sighed, "I know, I just want to give it a try. You sit here for a while and I'll pay the bill." "Mom, do you have enough money?" "That's enough, don't worry about it." "Good." Xiao Ningxun promised, but after Xiao Shulan left, she followed him. I saw Xiao Shulan coming to a secluded place and making a phone call. Fourth brother, can you lend me 40,000 yuan? Yes, Ningxun's medical expenses. Okay, you can just transfer it directly to my card. Thank you very much, second sister. Qiao Ningxun looked very uncomfortable. She had just been reborn and her family was in debt. 40,000 yuan. Based on their family's current situation, it is estimated that they will have to save it for several years. At this moment, Qiao Shulan said again, Yuan des Han? It was originally agreed that he would pay half, but I couldn't get through just now. I guess he didn't want to pay. Back then, I gave birth to Ningxun through in vitro fertilization. I have been treating my infertility and spent a lot of money. Now I finally have my own child, of course not Ningxun, and Ningxun is not his biological child. What? Qiao Ningxun was shocked. She was not Yuan des Han's biological child. No wonder he has been treating her badly. Fourth, second sister, I really want to thank you. It's just that my family still owed a lot of money. I borrowed that money first and must pay it back first, but if you need it urgently, I can also find a way. Okay, let's leave it like this for the time being. Seeing Qiao Shulan walking back, she also hurriedly walked to the rest area. More than 10 minutes later, Qiao Shulan came to her daughter with a smile and said, let's go home. Although Yuan des Han took Qiao Ningxun to another city before, he couldn't survive and returned to the city where Qiao Shulan was. Now they are in a tertiary hospital in Nanjing City. Their home is in the countryside of Nanjing and they need to take more than an hour's bus ride. After getting in the car, Qiao Ningxun closed her eyes and rested her mind. The debt of 40,000 yuan is an astronomical figure for their family. She heard in her previous life that her eldest cousin He Yuanyang was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 10 years old. Although there were donations from school and society, the family still owed a lot of money. Grandpa and Grandma are also in poor health. They have been hospitalized several times over the years and still have some illnesses. Including the 40,000 yuan owed today, it is conservatively estimated that the family's debt is at least 300,000 yuan. Sigh, her family is so poor now. Qiao Shulan thought her daughter was tired, so she didn't disturb her anymore and closed her eyes to rest. Qiao Ningxun's spiritual consciousness entered the space and tried to open all the books, trying to find a way to cultivate spiritual power. Now she can only make money from space. I didn't expect that she would actually find him. The instructions say that places with a lot of vegetation, that is, places in mountains and forests, have the most spiritual power. Near the Daguo village where her grandparents lived, there were several large mountains with lots of vegetation. As for her studies, there is nothing she can do. The doctor said that she injured her head and needs to rest for at least 2 months, so she cannot use her brain too much. She had just had the operation, and the wound had not yet completely healed. She should not exercise strenuously or exert herself, but should rest. So even though the school is not on vacation yet, she cannot go back. And now that she is following Qiao Shulan, she will definitely transfer to another school in the second half of the year. After that, she will just have to make up the final exam for the first year of high school at the new school. The transfer procedures have also been completed. It turns out that she didn't have many things at Yuan des Han's house. Qiao Shulan had packed them for her when she went to change her household registration. The time we arrived at Daguo village was exactly dinner time. The houses in Daguo village are all similar. They are all ordinary 2-story farmhouses. However, depending on the economic conditions of each family, the buildings may be large or small, and the decoration may be good or bad. At this time, most people were cooking at home, so they met few people on the road. When they returned to Yakaxiang's house, which was near Qiao Ningxun's grandmother's house, the two of them saw many people gathered around the door. Qiao Shulan hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Everyone, give way." The onlookers saw Qiao Shulan coming back with a child and quickly got out of the way. As soon as Jiao Shulan and Jiao Ningxun entered, they saw He Yuanhui kneeling straight in the middle of the yard. The yard of Jiao's family is partly made of concrete, and partly still made of mud for growing vegetables. Jiao Ningxun's grandparents, Jiao Kongsheng and Ye Kaixiang, were standing in front of him angrily. He Yuanhui is the second son of Jiao Ningxun's aunt Jiao Shuking. He is a freshman in high school this year. Dad, Mom, what's going on? The two old men looked up and saw their daughter back, and then saw Jiao Ningxun next to them, and they were immediately excited. Ye Kaixiang stepped forward, hugged Jiao Ningxun, and said in surprise, "Ningxun, you are back, have you been discharged from the hospital?" Jiao Kongsheng is also smiling. From their expressions, Jiao Ningxun knew that they sincerely welcomed her back. Jiao Ningxun also hugged her grandma back, smiled and nodded, "Yes, Grandpa, Grandma, I'm back, I'm fine." He Yuanhui originally had his head lowered. When he heard Jiao Ningxun came back, he raised his head and glanced at her. Seeing that she was quite energetic, he lowered his head again. He and his family visited her several times when she was in a coma. At that time, he really thought she was going to die, but he didn't expect that she would be alive and kicking so soon. God has eyes. Ye Kaixiang let go of her granddaughter and said with a smile, "Just come back. From now on, you can follow us, and your grandparents will take care of you." "Well, thank you, Grandpa and Grandma." Jiao Shulan looked at the kneeling person and asked, "Did Yuanhui make any mistake?" End of this chapter. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 Bet on Early Death. Mentioning He Yuanhui, Jiao Kangshen's face suddenly turned cold. This brat, the school hasn't even had a holiday yet, so he gave himself a holiday. He couldn't study well, so he went to work in the city. He even asked someone to pretend to be a parent. We called the school and told him that he was sick. If people from the same village hadn't seen him in the city, he wouldn't have kept it secret from us for how long? Jiao Ningxun raised his eyebrows. This kind of thing seemed to have happened in his previous life. He Yuanhui was 1 month younger than her, and he didn't want to study long after he finished high school. Later on, his grandparents also arrested him several times, but he came back once and escaped once, and his studies became worse and worse. My grandparents knew they could no longer control him, so they allowed him to go out to work, and his education level remained at junior high school graduation. Others are also considered filial and send 3,000 yuan back every month. But without any academic qualifications, he suffered a lot and suffered a lot of anger outside. Later on, an accident happened accidentally and he died at a young age. He Yuanhui didn't feel that he was wrong at all. He straightened his back and said, "My grades are not good. Studying now is a waste of time. It is better to enter the society and make money early." Jiao Kongsheng said earnestly, "If your grades are not good, then you should work hard. Isn't your elder brother's grades very good? Let him give you tutoring." "No, this will drag down my eldest brother's study. He will be a senior in high school in the second half of the year. How can he have time to teach me? Isn't it enough that we have a promising eldest brother? You're really mad at me. Your parents haven't been around since you were a child. Your grandma, me, and your second aunt worked so hard for you to study. You couldn't bear to go to the hospital even when you were sick. This is how you repay us. I won't study anymore, so you can relax. You still don't know where you went wrong, so just kneel here for me when you figure it out and are willing to go back to school. Get up again." He Yuanhui pursed his lips. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. He didn't believe that his grandfather could still let him kneel to death here. Jiao Ningxun glanced at the people watching the excitement at the entrance of the courtyard, and said coquettishly, "Grandpa, I just came back. I've been in the car for a long time and I'm hungry." Chiao Kongsheng hurriedly said, Grandpa was negligent. You must be very tired after sitting in the car for so long just after you were discharged from the hospital. You go to rest first, and Grandpa will go cook now. Thank you, Grandpa. Chiao Shulan also went to send the onlookers away. Chiao Shulan asked Chiao Ningsun to go back to her room to rest, and then went to help in the kitchen. As soon as Chiao Shulan left, Chiao Ningsun came to He Yuanhui. He Yuanhui glanced at her and snorted, You don't need to persuade me, I have made up my mind and will not go back to school. Chiao Ningsun squatted beside him and whispered, Cousin, you see how hard it is for your grandparents and my mother to make money, so you don't want to continue studying, right? If I don't advise you, you will die early. When you died in your previous life, your grandparents almost followed you. My mother has also been in grief for a long time. He Yuanhui. Cousin used to be stupid, why is he so smart now? There is another reason. You saw that something happened to me and my family spent a lot of money. Moreover, I heard that I will come back and study in the future. I know that if I continue to study, my family will be more stressed, so I want to go out to make money. He Yuanhui. Save some face if you see through it but don't tell it off. Chiao Ningsun sighed and said, Cousin, you don't have to be like this. I have grown up too. Don't worry, I can help the family make money in the future. Our tuition and living expenses will definitely be enough. He Yuanhui said with disdain on his face, You are a little brat, how much money can you make? Hearing his cousin's contemptuous tone, Chiao Ningsun was immediately furious. She put her hands on her hips and said, Don't look down on me. I'm older than you. I'm a brat, so you are a brat too. I am a man, different from you. Men should support their families. Huh, why don't we make a bet? How to bet? Just bet on whether I can make money for my family within a month. If I make money, you can go to school honestly from now on. If I can't make money, you can go back to work. Then I will help you persuade your grandparents. But during the bet, you must go back to school and study hard, and you can't make your grandparents and my mother anxious. He Yuanhui looked at her suspiciously, Why do I think you are setting me up? Chiao Ningsun said with an innocent face, I didn't set a trap. If you don't want to, then forget it. No, can't I agree to it? Then you go and admit your mistake to your grandparents first. He Yuanhui had no choice but to get up and admit his mistake. It's already June anyway, and school will be on vacation soon. He can't go to work in June, and at worst he will go to work during the summer vacation. After a while, He Yuanhui came back, Grandpa, Grandma, and second aunt have forgiven me. Tell me, how do you plan to make money? Chiao Ningsun smiled and said, I haven't thought about it yet. He Yuanhui. Why does he feel that he has been cheated? Chiao Ningsun patted He Yuanhui's shoulder, laughed and said, Don't worry, people come up with solutions. He Yuanhui sighed. Chiao Kongsheng and Yekaxiang quickly prepared dinner. He Yuanhui was a little excited when he saw the delicious food. He has not seen such a sumptuous dish for a long time. Chicken, duck, and fish are all available. Yekaxiang filled a bowl of stewed pork ribs and served it to He Yuanhui. He Yuanhui was about to pick him up when Yekaxiang placed the ribs in front of Chiao Ningsun next to him. He Yuanhui. He is the youngest in the family. Before his cousin came back, Grandma must have given him the first bowl. Sure enough, love can transfer. Yekaxiang glared at her grandson and motioned for him to serve it himself. Then she turned around and said with a smile, Ningsun, you have just recovered from a serious illness. You should take a good supplement and eat with ease. Chiao Ningsun glanced at the meals. If she hadn't known that her family was in debt, she would have thought that her family's life was very good. Thank you, Grandma. One night, Yekaxiang and Chiao Kongsheng were busy picking up vegetables for their granddaughter, for fear that she would be restrained. Chiao Ningxun had been eating light food in the hospital before, and it had been a long time since he had eaten such delicious food. Hence he refused to accept anyone who came, and successfully exhausted himself. He Yuanhui glanced at her with disgust. Chiao Ningxun noticed her cousin's eyes out of the corner of her eye and suddenly felt aggrieved. Ye Kaixiang gently patted her grandson's head and said, "Don't bully your cousin." He Yuanhui snorted in his heart and continued eating. Drama Queen. At this moment, Chiao Shulan's phone rang. Hello. A woman is talking on the phone. After a while, Chiao Shulan hung up the phone with a bad expression. Ye Kaixiang said worriedly, "Shulan, what happened?" "It's nothing, don't worry, I can take care of it." Chiao Ningxun just heard the voice on the phone and said directly, "Mom, your previous employer fired you, right?" End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 Giving Birth to Loquat. She heard from Chiao Shulan in her previous life that she had been working as a nanny for a wealthy family. In order to take care of her, I took leave from my employer. The employer had more than one nanny at home, so she agreed. In her previous life, at this time, her employer saw that she was still not coming back, so he fired her. Chiao Shulan forced a smile and said, "You heard it all?" "Yes, I'm not surprised. I haven't gone back, and it's inconvenient for my employer. It's normal to find someone to replace me. Nanny jobs are easy to find, I can just look for them again." Others nodded. There were many rich people in the city. This was indeed the case, so they were not worried. After dinner, Chiao Ningxun returned to his room to rest. After locking the door, she continued to read the book in the space. Since my memory is good now, it's always good to learn more. The next day. After breakfast, Chiao Ningxun was still holding a book and reading it carefully. Chiao Shulan was relieved to see her daughter so serious, but she still told her, "Ningxun, you need to take a good rest now." Chiao Ningxun raised his head and said, "Mom, don't worry, I'll just watch for a while. If you don't read it now, you won't have time to read it today." Okay. Chiao Shulan did not force her daughter, and continued to urge, "You just rest at home. I went to the city to find a job and brought food. I won't come back at noon. Your grandparents also have to go to the fields, but they will come back at noon to do the cooking. Food. Don't go to the kitchen until you've recovered, got it?" Okay. Chiao Shulan looked at He Yuanhui again. "You have skipped classes recently and missed a lot of homework. You are just reading at home and you are not allowed to go anywhere." Although He Yuanhui agreed to go to school, today was Saturday, so he did not go. As for my eldest cousin He Yuanyang, he is currently in the second semester of his sophomore year in high school. He has to work hard for the exam for the third-year senior class next semester, and he didn't come back this weekend. He Yuanhui touched his nose and nodded honestly, "Yes, second aunt." Chiao Ningxun waited for a while and saw that everyone in his family had gone out, so he walked to the utility room, picked up a basket and walked towards the door. He Yuanhui, who had been watching from the side, stopped her without thinking too much, squinted and said, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to find a way to make money." "Making money? What are you doing carrying the basket?" "I can't tell clearly for a while." "You'd better not go out before you're discharged from the hospital, and you need to rest more." If something happens to his cousin under his nose, his grandparents and second aunt are not allowed to eat him. Chiao Ningxun obviously knew the reason why he stopped her. He raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Why don't you come with me too? Multiple errand runners are also good." "That's okay." The worst case scenario is that you will get scolded. The second aunt suffered a lot in order to provide for him, and it was nothing to be scolded for her daughter. No matter what, he has to look at his cousin. The two of them walk towards the mountain together. Summer is coming soon, and the weather is getting hotter and hotter. Many people go to work in the fields early in the morning and go home as soon as the sun heats up. There are some farmlands at the foot of the mountain, so even though it was only 7 o'clock, they met a lot of people along the way. Those who come to farm are basically people in their 60s or 70s. Others who are slightly younger, like Xiao Shulan, work outside. Seeing Xiao Ningxun, they all took the initiative to say hello. Xiao Ningxun also responded with a smile. The two soon started climbing the mountain. It rained last night and the road was not very easy to walk. In addition, Xiao Ningxun had just been discharged from the hospital. Her body was weak and her feet were weak. If it weren't for He Yuan who as support, she would have fallen down many times. He Yuan saw that she was about to slip again and quickly supported her. "My ancestor, is there anything good here? Why do you have to come here?" Xiao Ningxun was also very embarrassed. She didn't expect that the shoes she wore today were so non-slip. She said seriously, "It's about making money. Don't worry, I'll change to a pair of non-slip shoes next time." "Is this a shoe problem? There's no money to be made here." "It's okay, trust me, just follow me." He Yuan had no choice but to continue to follow. Should he cancel the bet? He felt as if his cousin's brain was really damaged. After walking for a while, Xiao Ningxun suddenly stopped. He Yuan looked nervous and said, What's wrong with you?" Xiao Ningxun saw that his voice was trembling. She shook her head helplessly, looked into the distance and said, "The loquat tree over there belongs to our family, right?" Like ordinary villagers, Xiao Kongsheng planted some fruit trees so that he could eat fruits at home. They heard that loquats can bear fruit without much management, so they planted them. There are 12 trees in total, and all of them have begun to bear fruit now. He Yuan said suspiciously, "You don't want to pick those loquats to make money, right? Let me tell you, those loquats are no different from wild ones. Grandpa and Grandma are busy growing vegetables in the fields every day and have no time at all. If you take care of it, the fruit will be sour, small, and astringent. If you take one bite, your teeth will be sore. It is really not delicious at all and cannot be sold. The naughty children in the village didn't come to pick it, so you can imagine how unpalatable it is." Xiao Ningxun silently recited the fertility formula to the loquats, then said with a smile, "How will you know if you don't try? Come on, let's pick some back." Now that she has recovered, the side effects of using the formula should not be so serious. He Yuan saw her walking towards the loquat forest and had no choice but to follow her. "It's only a few steps anyway, and she should give up by the time we get there." As soon as he approached the loquat forest, he had a casual expression, but suddenly his eyes widened in surprise, and he quickly walked towards the two innermost loquat trees. "How come these two loquat trees are so different? Each fruit is big, yellow, and about the same size. One is as good as 2 or 3 times the fruit of other trees." Xiao Ningxun walked around the two loquat trees for a few times, and said with a surprised look on his face, "Wow, this loquat is really big, and it looks delicious. Let me try one first." As she said that, she picked one, peeled it quickly, and took a bite. Sweet, so delicious. Xiao Ningxun was extremely pleasantly surprised. "I thought it could only make plants grow, but I didn't expect it could also make plants grow sweeter." She originally came to try it out today, but she didn't expect that she would get something unexpected. He Yuan also tasted it and found it was indeed sweet. How is this going? He was sure that his grandparents would never be able to take care of it. Could it be that God saw that their family was in difficulty, so he allowed them to make money by selling loquats? But how much money can you make from selling loquats? Chiao Ningxun pretended to look at He Yuan Huai with a look of resentment. Cousin, you actually lied to me? This loquat is so delicious. He Yuan Huai suddenly blushed. He was afraid that his cousin would think he was lying, so he quickly explained, I really didn't lie to you. I really didn't know that loquat looked like this. If I had known, I would have brought you here myself. End of this chapter. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 Going to the hospital again after being surprised. Second aunt is so good to him, just like his mother. He has something good, how could he not give it to his cousin? Seeing his cousin in such a panic, Chiao Ningxun stopped teasing him and said with a considerate look, okay, I will believe you this time. These loquats are so delicious, let's pick them and sell them for money. I'm sure it can be sold for a lot of money. We will take it to the city to sell it in the afternoon. People in the city like this thing. He Yuan Huai took a look at the fruits on several trees nearby. They were all still green and yellow. He didn't think much about it. It's normal for the same tree to mature at different times. Sell early and make money early. Okay, your basket is too small, I'll go back and get the basket. I'll also call my grandparents over, we'll go to the city to sell it together in the afternoon. Well, go back quickly and bring the ladder with you. Good. While He Yuan Huai was gone, in order to save time and not make her grandparents so tired, Chiao Ningxun picked it by herself. Now is the time when herbs in the mountains are growing rapidly. Although she read a medical book last night, she also memorized a lot of herbal medicine. Along the way, she also saw a lot of medicinal herbs. Compared with collecting medicines, selling loquats is now more profitable and easier for families to accept. Furthermore, she should not be careless in treating illnesses and rescuing people. She still had to master her medical skills thoroughly before she dared to prepare her own medicine. At the same time, Chu Yanyi, who was having breakfast, suddenly stood up. The person next to you asked, "What's wrong with you?" Chu Yanyi said, "If something happens, I'll go out." He picked up his cell phone, made a call and went out. Chiao Kongsheng and Ye Kaixiang are working in the fields. They are old and have physical problems. Therefore, unlike other people who can go to the city to find work, they can only grow land and sell vegetables to supplement themselves. But they are not in good health, so they usually need to take a break after doing it for half an hour. When He Yuan Huai came to see them, they were sitting on the ridge of the field, worrying about the school fees of their children, the family's debts, and their daughter's job. At this time, Chiao Kongsheng had a sad look on his face, which was different from his relaxed expression at home. Ningxun is back. Shulan will definitely have more hard work in the future. We still have to work hard. Ye Kaixiang thought for a while and suggested, how about I follow the people in the village to work in the supermarket? The work in the supermarket is not too tiring, but I have to stand for a lot of time. I can earn more than 2,000 a month, which is better than what we farm to make money. No, your body can't bear it. Ye Kaixiang also knew that she was in poor health and was depressed. When she saw He Yuan Huai running towards them, she was a little confused. After hearing what He Yuan Huai said, the two looked at each other in surprise. Chiao Kongsheng said, "Yuan Huai, don't joke with your grandparents. It's not like you don't know about those loquats. My family doesn't eat them. I make some loquat wine every year. How can I sell them? No one buys them. It's a waste of time to pick them, it's better to work in the fields." He Yuan Huai also knew that his grandparents would not believe it, so he only said, "If you don't believe it, you can go and see it for yourself. I just tasted one, and it's even more delicious than those grown by professional fruit farmers." Chiao Kongsheng and Ye Kaixiang saw how solemn he was in his words. Although they had doubts, they had no choice but to follow him. It is impossible for two children to make fun of the two old people. Before leaving, they went home, picked up baskets, and carried ladders up the mountain together. When someone asked me about it on the road, they said they were going to pick loquats and come back to make loquat wine. After arriving at their loquat patch, the two old men saw the loquats and their jaws almost hit the ground in shock. "Oh my God, is this still the loquat tree in our house?" "Yes, even professional fruit farmers probably can't grow these loquats." The two of them quickly picked another one and tasted it. "Sweet, so sweet. It's delicious, it's so delicious, it's the best loquat I've ever eaten in my life." He snorted, "Grandpa and Grandma, you saw it with your own eyes and ate it with your own eyes." "I didn't lie, did I?" The two elders suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Chiao Kongsheng looked at the two trees in front of him, then at the tree next door, and wondered, why are these two mature trees so good? Could it be that the neighbor's management was wrong? No, the neighbor's tree is not as good as his. Chiao Ningxun didn't want them to struggle with this issue, so he quickly changed the subject. "Grandpa, let's hurry up and pick them now and transport them to the city in the afternoon to sell them. Such beautiful and delicious loquats, if they are sold in the village." The naughty kid found it and it was gone in one night. It's all money. Chiao Kongsheng and Yekaxiang thought about this and hurriedly started picking loquats. Chiao Ningxun also picked a lot just now, but he just put them in the space and will take them out together when he goes back later. After an hour, the four of them transported all the ripe loquats home. Yekaxiang went to cook quickly and planned to go to the city after eating. Chiao Kongsheng went to borrow a tricycle. After all, Deguo village was still quite far from the city. If you rely on your feet to carry a basket, you will be exhausted. He Yuanhui and Chiao Ningxun went to the kitchen to help. Not long after, Chiao Kongsheng borrowed the tricycle back and carefully moved all the loquats in the basket. After lunch, Chiao Ningxun also quietly put the loquats in the space on the tricycle. Chiao Ningxun saw that Chiao Kongsheng was going to sell loquats in person, so he quickly stopped him and said, "Grandpa, you've had a hard enough morning, so just rest. My cousin and I will go there, so we can also experience life. Children of poor people are already in charge of their own business, and they all know how to sell things." Chiao Kongsheng hesitated and said, "But three-wheeled trucks cannot carry people. If you are caught in the city, you will be fined." Chiao Ningxun glanced at the corner of the yard and suggested, "Then I'll ride the family's battery car and follow behind my cousin. The battery car at home is a second-hand battery car that my fourth uncle bought for my grandparents. It only costs a few $100 and is used by my grandparents for transportation." Chiao Kongsheng asked, "Can you ride?" "Yes, don't worry." "Can you hold on physically?" "Yes, don't worry, my cousin will take care of me." "Okay, then ride slowly and pay attention to safety." Soon, the two siblings rode to Nanjing City. Chiao Ningxun first went to various fruit shops to check the prices of loquats, and then drove the tricycle near the hospital where she was treated. There is a special stall nearby, but it can only be set up in the afternoon, not in the morning, and it is free. She accidentally found out about it when she was hospitalized last time. He Yuanhui asked in confusion, "Cousin, why are we here? Why don't we go to the market?" Chiao Ningxun said, "This is a hospital, and it is the largest tertiary hospital in Nanjing. There are many people visiting the hospital. If you want to visit the patients, you must buy fruit. If you put it here, it will be easy to sell." End of this chapter. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 8. Chapter 8, Making Money. That makes sense. Seeing that her cousin didn't ask any more questions, Chiao Ningxun breathed a sigh of relief. She read the space book again and learned that the food that had been induced by the Immortal formula would be very beneficial to the body if eaten. As for the benefits, the book doesn't say it yet. It would also be a good thing if her magic formula could help patients in the hospital. She is not familiar with other places, so in order to avoid trouble, it is better to stay here. After they finished picking all the loquats, two people appeared at the place where Xiaoningsun had just picked loquats. Chu Yanyi looked carefully at the two plucked loquat trees, his dark eyes full of smiles, finally found them. Lu Jing'ai also guessed what the man did, raised his eyebrows and said, "Boss, I will investigate the next matter." "Okay, you go ahead, I'll take a look here." He Yuanhui originally thought that business would not come so soon, but unexpectedly a man came over soon. "This loquat looks really good, how can I sell it?" Hearing the sound, Xiaoningsun looked up and said with a smile, "Dr. Yan, loquats cost 10 yuan a pound. Don't worry, they are all grown at home without any pesticides. The ordinary large loquats here only cost 5 yuan a pound, but her loquats are beautiful and sweet, so she doesn't believe they can't be sold at a high price." Dr. Yan saw the face of the person in front of her clearly, then looked at the stall in front of her, frowned and said, "Xiaoningsun, didn't I tell you to have a good rest?" "Ha." Xiaoningsun smiled awkwardly and didn't hide it, sighing, "The conditions at home are not good. My mother owes a lot of debt to treat me. My father has a new love, and he has a new love they don't want me, my grandparents are not in good health, and my mother lost her job yesterday, so I and my cousin." Seeing Xiaoningsun so wronged, Dr. Yan felt uncomfortable. He knew that her family situation was not very good, but he didn't expect it to be so bad. He coughed lightly and said, "Okay, I'm just talking casually." Seeing that the loquats in front of him were selling well, he did not negotiate the price and said readily, "Then weigh 10 pounds for me. Sell out early and let her go home early." Xiaoningsun and He Yuanhui were instantly happy and started busy. Soon, Dr. Yan took the loquat, handed over 100 yuan, and warned uneasily, "When there are no customers, just sit next to it and rest, don't dry it in the scorching sun, go home directly after selling. Don't be tired, got it?" Xiaoningsun said with a sweet look on his face, "Okay." Dr. Yan looked at He Yuanhui next to him, "You are a man, please take more care of your cousin." He Yuanhui also recognized the identity of the man in front of him from what he just said, nodded, and said, "Okay, Dr. Yan." Seeing Dr. Yan leave, Xiaoningsun suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. "It was a miscalculation on my part. I was discharged from the hospital yesterday, and I'm back here today without even pretending, alas." Dr. Yan has a bad temper with patients who don't listen to him. "It's okay. Today's level has been passed. Look, we've only been here for less than 10 minutes and we've already made $100. In the past, most of the fruit from the loquat trees would rot in the ground. To them, these 100 pieces of fruit were just like picking up for free." Xiaoningsun cheered up again in an instant, his eyes lit up and he said, "Yes, I have passed the test. Make good money to supplement your family's income." A passing woman suddenly came over with her child. Seeing the big and beautiful loquat, she was surprised and said, "This loquat is so beautiful. I don't know if it is sweet or not." Xiaoningsun said softly, "Sister, you can take one to try the taste, and then buy it if you are satisfied." The woman was already in her 40s, and most people called her aunt. Suddenly she was called sister by a child, and she became very happy. "Okay, then I'll give it a try." After a while, the woman was pleasantly surprised and said, "Sweet, so sweet. It is the most delicious loquat I have ever tasted. You must have used a lot of pesticides, right?" Xiaoningsun wasn't angry either, and said with a smile, "Absolutely not. If there is a little pesticide, it's up to you to dispose of it. You kid, You're quite a talker. Seeing 10 yuan a pound written next to it, the woman said, okay, give me 5 pounds. Good. After the woman left, many people came to visit the doctor after get off work at noon, and many more people came one after another, making the two busy people very happy. It was the lunch break at this time. Dr. Yan returned to his office and placed 10 pounds of loquats on his desk. Dr. Shen asked, what kind of loquat is this? Why is it so big? I just bought it at the door. I don't know. If you like it, take some and try it. Then I'm not welcome. It's so sweet and delicious, I'll eat another one. After a while, Dr. Shen had eaten 3 or 4. Dr. Yan was stunned. He bought it casually. Is it so delicious? He also ate one, and it tasted really extraordinary. But he shouldn't be the only one to buy such delicious loquats. Dr. Yan immediately smiled when he saw his colleagues coming back to rest after eating outside. Those colleagues suddenly trembled. Why did they feel that they were being targeted? As soon as Chiao Ningsun saw off a guest, he saw more than 10 people coming not far away. As soon as they arrived at the stall, one of them asked, can we try it? Chiao Ningsun was also very generous and nodded, try it? More than 10 people tasted it together. Yes, that's what it tastes like. That's right, that's right. It tastes right. Chiao Ningsun and He Yuanhui were confused. It's just that Chiao Ningsun reacted quickly. No wonder she felt that these people were familiar. She had seen these people in the hospital before. I guess they ate the loquats Dr. Yan brought back and found them delicious, so they all came out to have a look. After a while, the dozen or so people spoke one after another, I want 10 caddies. I want 15 pounds. I want 20 pounds. This loquat is a good thing. It moistens the lungs, relieves cough, and reduces phlegm. It is good for the body. The two siblings were surprised at first, but soon they were smiling and busy working quickly. Many people nearby knew the doctors. They thought that the fruits the doctors bought must be good things, so they all followed the doctors to buy them. An hour later, Chiao Ningsun saw that the tricycle was empty, so she sat down to rest and gasped, I can't do it anymore, I need to rest, I'm exhausted. I just used the Immortal formula in the morning, and my body, which had just recovered from a serious illness, had been busy for so long, and I really couldn't hold on. He Yuanhui nodded in agreement, happily squatting on the ground and counting the money quietly with the help of a tricycle. 100, 200, 300, 1000, 2000, 5000, cousin, we actually made 5000 in one day today. It would be great if I could make so much money every day. The family owes hundreds of thousands in debt. Chiao Ningsun knew that he had made a lot of money today when he just collected the money, so he was not surprised. He smiled and said, cousin, is our bet still worth it? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 9. Chapter 9 Being Targeted. He Yuanhui struggled for a moment and looked unconvinced. You have made money, but it is unstable and you don't often make so much money. If I go out to work, it will be a stable job. Oh, Chiao Ningsun raised his eyebrows, in other words, if our family can always make so much money, then you can study honestly. That's right. If the family is not short of money, what else will he do? Although his grades are not very good, he still misses school and his friends in school. Okay, let's wait and see. Seeing that it was still early, Chiao Ningsun suggested, cousin, let's go buy some delicious food and go back. He Yuanhui originally wanted to save money, but his family still had a lot of debts. But thinking that my cousin needed to replenish her health recently, she nodded. Just as they were packing their things and about to leave, a man with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks came over and suddenly handed them a big watermelon. "It's hot, let's have a melon." The two siblings frowned and gave them melons for no reason. To show hospitality when you have nothing to do is to be either an adulterer or a thief. He directly pushed the melon over. "No reward for no merit, you'd better take it back, we have to go home in a hurry." Grandpa and Grandma have taught him since he was a child that if you take advantage of small things, you will suffer big losses. As he spoke, Chiao Ningsun had already got on the car, and He also quickly started the car and left. The man's face suddenly darkened. Another man stepped forward and looked at the other's leaving figure, frowning and said, "Brother, what should we do? They are expected to come tomorrow. We will continue to ask tomorrow. I don't believe that these two idiots can't ask. They were watching just now. The two kids could earn more in 1 hour than he could sell in half a month." Chiao Ningsun and He went to the vegetable market, bought some things, and then went home directly. Chiao Shulan went to her employer's house to pay her last wages and then went to look for a job. She didn't want to look for jobs through an agency, which would result in a kickback, so she searched for jobs by herself while submitting her resume online. Or you can go to the bulletin board at the gate of an uncontrolled community, read the recruitment information, and make phone calls one by one. I just spent a day searching, my feet were worn out, my phone was almost out of battery, and I couldn't find it. There are buses in the village. When she got off at the entrance of the village, she happened to meet her daughter and nephew riding back. "Ningsun, are you going out? You haven't recovered yet, how can you go out?" After speaking, Chiao Shulan looked at He. She could tell at a glance which family the tricycle belonged to. "Where were you riding the tricycle?" He said nothing. She made an agreement with her cousin to go back and tell her family members together and give them a surprise. Seeing that Chiao Shulan was very haggard and her eyes were lifeless, Chiao Ningsun knew that she had not found a job. "Mom, stop talking to me, come up here and I'll take you back. It takes a few minutes to walk back from here. I'll explain it to you when I get back. Don't worry, I'm not tiring myself." Chiao Shulan was indeed tired, but there was no way she could let her daughter give her a ride, so she said helplessly, "Come down and I'll give you a ride." Good. When she left in the morning, she was worried that her parents would use a battery car, so she didn't ride it. The three of them arrived home soon. Seeing that the tricycles were all empty, Chiao Kongsheng hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Ningsun, how much did you sell for today?" Chiao Shulan wondered, "How much does it cost? Have they gone to sell vegetables? By the way, my daughter doesn't know what happened in the morning." Chiao Kongsheng was about to speak when he saw the smile in his grandson's eyes and knew that he had gained a lot today. He hurriedly closed the courtyard door, then asked everyone to go to the living room and closed the living room door. Chiao Shulan said suspiciously, "Dad, why are you so mysterious? Can't you tell me what you are selling?" "Yes, I just can't tell." Chiao Kongsheng looked at Chiao Ningsun and asked softly, "How much did it cost?" Chiao Ningsun smiled and took out all the money from the bag. "You will know by counting, we did not advance $1. In Nanjing, everyone still pays in cash." The people present were shocked when they saw so much cash. They started counting at the same time. "I have 1005 here. I have 1006 here. I have 1008 here." While the elders were still calculating, Chiao Ningsun smiled and said, "There are 4,900 yuan here, and we made a total of 5,000 yuan today. Before I recovered, I took 100 yuan to buy ribs and lotus roots to eat braised pork ribs." After a hard day's work, she would not wrong herself. Before following Yuan Des Han, she was severely malnourished. She had to eat more good food so that she could regain her health as soon as possible and help her family make a lot of money. Several elders were extremely surprised. Yakaxiang danced excitedly, That's great, my family has received so much money today. Chiao Kongsheng also said with a smile, the children don't have to worry about the tuition fees for the next semester. Chiao Shulan was also very happy, but wondered, what's going on? How many vegetables did you sell? How could you make so much money? It was only then that everyone realized that they hadn't told her the situation yet. Chiao Ningxun coughed lightly and said, Mom, today my cousin and I are like this, that's why we are so happy, the money is the same as what we picked up for free. Chiao Shulan was shocked when she heard this, is there such a good thing in the world? Yes, Chiao Kongsheng said, unfortunately, we have finished picking the loquats today, otherwise we can take you to see them tomorrow. By the way, I forgot one thing. Chiao Ningxun suddenly opened the door and went to the kitchen. When he came back, he brought a plate of loquats. Such delicious loquats, it would be too unfair for us to sell them all, so I kept some for the whole family to eat. Yakaxiang was very pleased. Her granddaughter was so considerate. Shulan, try one. It tastes really good. Chiao Shulan knew from the appearance of the loquats in front of her that they must taste good. After she ate one, she was surprised and said, it's really delicious, so delicious. As she spoke, she ate several more. Others were also a little hungry when they saw her delicious food, so they couldn't help but eat together. He Yuanhui sighed, it's a pity that such beautiful loquats can only be sold once. We don't say we sell them all the time. I just wish I could sell them for a few more days. That would be great. The atmosphere suddenly cooled down. Yes, no matter how good the loquat is, it can only be sold once. Chiao Ningxun smiled and said, then let's go and take a look tomorrow. Maybe we can really sell it. Even if the loquats are gone, you can still sell others. Everyone knows that such good things cannot always happen in the world, but they did not hit Chiao Ningxun and agreed. Chiao Ningxun gave all the money to Chiao Shulan, and now Chiao Shulan is in charge of the money at home. End of this chapter. Back before I became a vegetative state, I became an immortal and invincible. Author, Qing Jue Chen Chen. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. Here comes the money seeker. Chiao Shulan alone received 4,500 yuan, and the remaining 400 yuan was given to Chiao Ningxun and He Yuanhui. The reason is very good. This is the money they sold and the loquats they found. They regard it as hard-earned money. The two of them didn't refuse. They wouldn't use it indiscriminately anyway, and they wouldn't need living expenses to go to school in the future. At night we had pork ribs and stewed lotus root. This is Chiao Ningxun's favorite dish. After finishing it, she went upstairs to rest. Chiao Shulan and her parents were busy in the kitchen. Thinking of seeing her daughter's sleepy appearance just now, her face was full of distress. Ningxun's body must not have recovered yet. She yawned more than 20 times after dinner at 7 o'clock. Yakaxiang said, fortunately, this is a one-time deal. Let her have a good rest starting tomorrow. Chiao Shulan nodded, well, I will continue to look for a job tomorrow. She must not let her daughter worry about money. The person they were talking about had already fallen asleep. Chiao Ningxun was really tired. She had just recovered from a serious illness and used the magic formula. She tried her best not to fall asleep while eating. At this time, in a villa, Lu Jing'ai handed Chu Yanyi the investigation report from the daytime. Boss, this is all the information related to those two loquat trees. The owner is Chiao Kongsheng, and his wife is Yakaxiang. The loquat forest and the surrounding acres of land are all contracted by the Chiao family. Chu Yanyi first took a look at the photo, and when he saw the person in the photo, his face suddenly softened. Lu Jing'ai shook his head helplessly when he saw this. This is the only face that can make their boss show such a gentle expression. Chu Yanyi looked at the report again, and when he saw her previous experience and the car accident, his face instantly darkened. However, After seeing that she was discharged from the hospital safely, his brows suddenly relaxed. I see. Then what are you going to do next? Are you going to teach that UN Deshan a lesson? Chu Yanyi raised his eyes. Lu Jing'ai stiffened and smiled uncomfortably. Okay, I won't ask any more. She used to like to solve everything by herself. She was not happy when I intervened. But I was not happy just letting UN Deshan go. You can handle it yourself and don't do anything illegal. Then check her car accident. Let's see what's going on. Okay, boss. 12 o'clock in the evening. Chiao Ningxun suddenly opened his eyes. Perhaps it was because she went to bed too early, but her mind was unusually clear at this time. I wanted to go back to sleep, but I tossed and turned for a long time without falling asleep. 5 minutes later, she climbed over the wall out of the yard and walked up the mountain. Since I can't sleep anyway, I might as well go to the mountains to practice my spiritual power. When He Yuanhui went to find her grandparents during the day, she had already found a place to practice. It's in the ancient tree ditch on the mountain. I heard that there are all ancient trees that are hundreds of years old, and one tree is even over 1,000 years old. It must be full of spiritual energy. When she came to the 1,000-year-old tree, she took out the mat she had prepared, sat down and started practicing. She has also found the method of cultivation in the space book. It was similar to what she acted in the TV series she watched before. However, it was really cold in the mountains at night, so she was prepared and wore a thick coat. What she didn't know was that the surrounding spiritual energy passed through the 1,000-year-old tree and poured in continuously from the top of her head in a short while. 4 hours later, Chiao Ningxun opened his eyes. She stretched out her left hand. The book said that if you cultivate spiritual power, white gas can come out of your palm, but only she can see it. It's just that her palm seemed to be the same as usual. However, she became more and more energetic and her body felt more relaxed. The space instructions say that once you have spiritual power, you can freely enter and exit the space. As soon as she thought about it, the person really disappeared from where he was. She came out quickly again. Great, this proves that she really has spiritual power, and she finally gained something tonight. She was worried that her family would wake up and find that she was not there, so she quickly went back and climbed over the wall to return home. A few hours later, Chiao Ningxun looked at the time vaguely, and it was already 8 o'clock. Thinking of going to pick loquats today, she quickly got up. After going downstairs, everyone was sitting in the main room, and the atmosphere was very heavy. Chiao Shulan said yesterday that she was going to find a job, but she didn't go today. Chiao Ningxun frowned. Could it be that they had gone to the loquat field to look at the loquats and thought they would never be able to sell loquats again, so they were in a bad mood? What's wrong with you? Why do everyone look so ugly? Seeing that her daughter was awake, Chiao Shulan forced herself to smile and said, Ningxun, the kitchen has heated breakfast for you. You go and eat it first. I'll go back later. What happened? Before Chiao Shulan could speak, two people came to the door. Chiao Ningxun knew them as none other than his uncle and his wife, Chiao Jianmo and Lu Hehua. Chiao Jianmo saw Chiao Ningxun and said with a smile, Ningxun is really getting more and more beautiful as she grows. She is a big girl now. Lu Hehua glanced at Chiao Ningxun and said with a haughty look on her face, what? We just met during the last winter vacation, and today I can't recognize my uncle and aunt. Oh, it turns out they are uncle and aunt. Chiao Ningxun looked like he had just come to his senses and sighed, as you know, I hurt my head and some memories are indeed gone. I believe that as elders, you should understand, right? She doesn't like these two people. She heard from her mother in her previous life that her uncle's family not only did not provide for their parents before her mother came back, but they often asked them for money. What good things my grandparents had, they would even shamelessly come to ask for them. If grandpa and grandma don't give it to them, they will take it by force. Every time, my grandparents didn't care much about my uncle because he was their child. Because of this, the old couple never dared to buy good food to eat, and they couldn't even eat it. It wasn't until my mother came back that life became easier for my grandparents. Those white-eyed wolf uncles no longer dare to come and rob at will. The couple suddenly choked. Yakaxiang said angrily, "We were about to go out just now, so you called Shulan and asked us to wait for you, saying that you had something important to come to us. Now tell us what it is." Chiao Ningxun did not feel uncomfortable with her stomach, so she went to the kitchen to get 2 steamed buns made by her grandma to eat. Lu Hehua was about to speak when she saw Chiao Ningxun eating steamed buns. She said with a strange look on her face, "Hey, you eat steamed buns early in the morning. It seems that your family's life is much better than ours. Our family eats steamed buns every day, just eating porridge and pickles." Chiao Ningxun sarcastically said, "Auntie, you know that I need to replenish my health just after being discharged from the hospital, so I eat well. Why are you so arrogant and acting like you have never eaten meat buns? Our family is poor. Mom has to go out to find a job. I'm not in good health and I need to rest. If you have anything, please tell me quickly." End of this chapter.